So, welcome everyone to this STARTIMPULSE Online. That will be a presentation in English. Just a quick introduction about IFJ and the different support that we can bring you as an organization. So IFJ is an organization that's going to help you incorporate either as LTD, LLC, sole proprietorship, or general partnership all over Switzerland, thanks to our online services. We have our sister company, VentureLab. VentureLab is an organization that will support high-tech startups all over Switzerland through different programs. One of the programs is Venture Kick, which is a competition and a foundation to pre-seed money for high-tech projects. So just two requirements to participate. One of them is that you need to be part of a university in Switzerland, and the second one that you need to have a high-tech project. Then we also have been mandated by the Confederation of Switzerland through InnoSwiss. InnoSwiss, it's the Commission of Innovation and Technology. And if you have a project in either biotech, medtech, advanced engineering, or ICT, you can apply. And if you are selected, you will be joining a program of 5 workshops within 6 weeks in order to benefit the experience of coaches, but also investors and entrepreneurs in these different fields in order to improve and help your projects. Then within the missions of IFJ, one of them is to inform entrepreneurs through our different courses in business plan, in how to incorporate in Switzerland. And then these courses are available online all throughout the year. We also have our own business plan tool. If you're looking to build your business plan and maybe ask for money from banks or investors, that would be a great tool because it helps you to make the financials of your business. And of course, we have all a bunch of checklists that you can download to help you go through the different steps of your business. Then we have, of course, our online services. So we have an online portal for incorporation. It's an online portal that you can incorporate for free, thanks to our partner PostFinance and Swisscom, that will take care of the notary and legal fees if you decide to be part of them. And then we also have an online mutation service now. If you want to change certain aspects in the commercial register, such as the person who are responsible, the address, the statutes, that's something you can use now. That's the only service online in Switzerland as today. And then as soon as you enter the ecosystem of IFJ, you can benefit, of course, of different promotions and offer from our partners up to 5,000 Swiss francs. And then get started. We also provide and offer courses in terms of accounting, marketing, and sales, but also intellectual property, which is online. If you're looking to protect your trademark, maybe get to know how to protect your idea as a startup, we will provide also these kind of courses. We have a partners with Bexio for everything that is related to accounting software, and then everything that is related to legal matters. You can also ask us for contracts, IP, as I said just before. So I'm not going to keep you too long. I'm going to give you the word to Barry Choco on how to build a promotional video. I know Barry now for a couple of years. I've been working together because we have organized Pitching Bars, which is an event with IFJ where entrepreneurs pitch in a bar, and he has been the one who is actually recording with a great skills these kind of events. So he will speak to you and share his wisdom about building a promotional video. So I will give him the word now for a couple of time. I'm sure that's going to be very interesting for you and insightful. So Barry, you have the floor.
So first, can you now see? So okay.
You can share your screen.
Yeah, that's what I am just checking. So puff. I have a little suddenly when things, so I will already start while I'm looking for the thing. Oh, hold on.
I can read it for you.
Oh yeah, you have these?
Yes.
So I have so all right. So how to build a promotional video. So promotional video, there it is. So let's keep it there for a moment. So a promotional videos in general can be something very wide. I mean, we can say a whole lot about this. And actually, I didn't want to go too much into specific things because there is so much to say that either I could say something that is very specific to some of you that some other of you might not find interesting at all or are absolutely not concerned about. So what I decided to do here is to tackle this by showing you more of the skeleton of a video, the structure, how it's made, and more of the general elements that are important to consider when making a promotional video. So first, with a quick summary. So I'm going to start with types of content. So this is not something that is a rule, or it's not kind of an official classification. This is something I came up with, which is a way I like to classify the different types of promotional videos. So we've got presentation, narrative, and product videography. Then I will move on to pre-production, which I think in any type of video is a very important step, but especially when it comes to promotional content. And then visual identity, which is really a big thing. It's really where I'm going to develop 4 major aspects, which are colors, lighting, pace, and sound, which can really be crucial elements to consider when building a promotional video. And then there's a little extra kind of bonus that I have included at the end, which is still related to the sound aspect. And I'm going to take a second example to show different elements and see how some of the big brands we know use these techniques to actually really influence us and really shape the image we have of their products. Actually, Douglas, if you can just, I'm still figuring out. Okay. I think there might be something working now. Hold on. So now, is it working? Can you see my screen right now?
No, just mine, but we can deal with mine.
Okay. So I cannot see myself anymore. And that's not it. Okay.
Do it again. Do it again.
Car la fenêtre partagée. Well.
Go ahead. Partager l'écran. Voilà.
Can you see it now?
Yes.
Okay, so great. Something seems to be working. Nope.
Lire.
And there it is. Now we're good. So presentation video, I'm gonna catch up for the time I've lost. So this is just a quick example, some of the things, very basic. So for me, presentation video is, as a whole, I would describe it as being a video that objectively presents a product, that use, or a service being delivered. So the idea here, as I highlighted here, I highlighted the word here is objectively. So it is more of a objective presentation. For example, we could have any type of content such as simply an after movie. It's an objective presentation of what happened, of an experience, an event. We could have still things such as big companies who, for example, make videos where they present how a product is made. It might not always be like purely true, but the idea is really to get an objective look at how the product is being made. So here the key is really objective. Or another great example is for product to clean the clothes, such as I mean, the sprays you can have to clean the clothes. Sometimes you might have videos where it's just a person standing there showing you the product, spraying on the clothes, putting it in the water, and then putting out, just showing you how effective that is. So that's really an objective way to present the product. Now, presentation videos, I would say, are very good for 3 types of products or services, which I classified here, mainly which is practical product. So for example, cleaning products can be one. We could have commodities, really practical products that don't have anything specific to them. Products and services with strong emphasis on authenticity. So you might have brands who have products that are really meant to be handmade, to be organic, and therefore it might be interesting to maybe have a video that is more authentic and that is less filtered, that is less creative, that is more raw in a sense.
Barry, sorry, just a thing. Can you just click on lire so we have the full screen?
Where is it?
Just on left side.
On the left side. Oh yeah, right. Yeah, sorry. So
No
yeah, it's better.
It's better for everyone.
And then the experience, so which could be, for example, an event. So it's really something, it might be interesting to show an event or, for example, a courses in a way that's not as creative, that's more raw, such as an after movie, so that the audience can really live this experience the same way the people who attended it did. So that's a first type. Now, okay, so then we have narrative. So this is just a quick example. Okay, so narrative now is a present. Okay, well, there is a small mistake here, but a narrative video is a video that subjectively presents a product or a service. So here the idea is more to create something, a story around the product or the service. So for example, the one example I just showed you here, which was the same video all the way through, was for carpentry. Now, the idea here was to come up with something that might be different, that you might not expect to see, and something that is not necessarily about one product or one service, but more about the spirit of the brand and the values of the brand. So that's why we're gonna take an approach that is more subjective and create a story around that. Now, okay, so narrative this time I would say is something that is more interesting to consider. For example, for symbolic products, so products that are really, that have a strong image. So for example, perfumes, clothes, these are really good examples because, I mean, really key examples. When we see ads for perfumes, very often, you're not just seeing the bottle or seeing a person spray the perfume on herself. This is kind of an abstract way to say, to give the image of what it is to use that perfume, to use that product. We have what I call highly competitive products and services. Now, these might be, or it's also products and services that are hard to distinguish. So for example, I saw one example very recently, which is for communication providers. Now, if you want to buy, if you want to have a subscription for the internet, for the phone, or even for TV, now there are multiple companies that are doing this. So you might be wondering, like, why do I go for this one or this other one or that other one? And so more and more, I think I've seen companies coming up with kind of little stories based around their main competitive point, their main competitive advantage. So for example, you might have some companies that make little stories about the fact that with them, you're gonna get the best price, you can save money for other things, or other ones that are gonna make small stories to tell you that with them, you can communicate no matter where you are, and therefore you're gonna be able to be close to your family, to your friends, no matter where you are in the world with their services. So this is what I would call highly competitive products and services. It's when either they're very close or they're hard to distinguish from one from each other. And then finally, also the experience, because as I said, I mentioned that one for the presentation video, and I think both approaches can be interesting because the presentation video is good to actually show what happened and allow the audience to really live this experience, whereas a narrative can be a great way to give them a little bit of a subjective take on what it is, what's the spirit, what this experience really is about more deeply or beyond the simple fact of seeing it. Now, this is a little bit of an extra one. I would consider more the two first elements. Now, once again, okay, so product videography, this is just a quick example so that you get an idea of what it can be. Okay, now just so that you get a sense. Now, product videography is most interesting for, I would say here, either products with a particular aesthetic component. So for example, once again, this is one of the techniques that's used also for perfume advertisings, or we see that also for coffee. So when there is something that is very aesthetic, it might be interesting to isolate the product and really show it from, really have shots, videos that emphasize the aesthetic component. So you're gonna isolate the product. Products with particular physical characteristics. So this might be, for example, if you have something that is specifically ergonomic and you actually want to show in your advertising the shape of the product, the way it is actually built, so that you understand maybe there is something special here. Maybe the grip, the handle has been thought differently than it previously was. So there might be something interesting to consider here. So this might be interesting to show certain physical characteristics of the product. And finally, once again, a little bit of a side one, which I personally used recently, which is products used to illustrate a service or event. So for example, just this one, for example, so the two cups spinning like that, this was one part of a video we did for a coffee event. So this had nothing to do with really a coffee advertising. This was for an event actually. And it was really a way to kind of illustrate what you're gonna get in a more symbolic manner in this event. Now, that's where it gets more interesting. I'm trying not to waste too much time. So pre-production, so first of all, why plan? This might be very often, we are tempted to just dive into it because we might be excited, we have so many ideas, but planning is really key, especially here. And I like to think of a video, especially a promotional video, as a guided tour. It's really an opportunity where you get the chance to take the audience to a place where you want them to go and show them specific things and tell them how they should look at it. And this is where you're really going to shape the image people have of your brand. Okay, so that's just a quick example, which I'm going to use as all the way through to keep a cohesive element from start to finish. So just. So this obviously was the one I talked before, which was for carpentry. So here, I really want, now I'm gonna talk more about pre-production. And actually, when I said the guided tour is an image for what the video should be like. Now, when it comes to pre-production, this is kind of a classic image many teachers give at school, but I think it is also true here. It's kind of like cooking, which is when you're making a video, you don't want to jump right into production not knowing what you do. Just like you would do when you, for example, make a chocolate cake, pre-production is about first understanding what result you're looking for. So before you actually do anything, you want to understand where you're going, what it is that you're trying to do. Once you understand, like, for example, I want to make a chocolate cake, you can then go back and get the right ingredients, and you're going to know what to do with it. And that's where you can then, once you know what to do, you can go back to production. I'd say one of the big mistakes that I have done when I started, and also that I see very often, is to just have many cool ideas for a video and just throw them in there and think that a pile of cool elements are going to give a cool video. But actually, if you don't think of it before, you might end up having just a huge pile of cool stuff that doesn't really mean anything when put together. So this is why it's really important to go back, understand what it is that you're looking for, and then figure out how you can achieve that. So I'm going to take the example here of the video I showed you before for the carpentry. And this is basically what I started with. So this is pretty much the elements I got at the very beginning. So we want something that is more about the spirit of the company. It's not about a specific product or service. It's really more about the values and the spirit of the company. Two, it had to be mainly about sustainability, or it had to have a sustainability component, because this is really important for them. This is not just a side thing that they mentioned to be well perceived. This is really something that is embedded in the company. So sustainability is a big thing. And third one was something that is still visually pleasing. It didn't have to be just kind of a practical video that you just look at to get information. It had to have a certain, you had to enjoy watching it. So from that point, what I did is I actually broke down what these elements actually meant. What was the next step? So more about the spirit of the company. This means what we wanted to show was actually authenticity, which was one of the big key for them. Quality, because this is really the main element they consider with authenticity when they're working. They always want to provide great quality for their clients. And finally, sustainability. Now, once again, you can see we have sustainability here and on at the bottom. So first, from that point on, I would say there are two elements. There is what we are going to do and how. The first element, the first thing is think of what we want to do. Before we actually say how, it's really about what. So again, here. So it is more, the first thing, we had sustainability, I just dropped that. And if I go back, visually pleasing is more about the how. So that's why I'm leaving it on the side for the moment. And the main thing I'm going to focus on is the part where they ask for something that is more about the spirit of the company. So it is about authenticity, quality, and sustainability. Now, from that point on, once again, I want to understand what these three elements mean, how we can show that. So authenticity, what is it about? Like, what characterizes authenticity for them? One of the things that is very visual is the fact that as much as possible of the work is done by hand. So it is really handcrafted. So to show the authenticity, we really wanted to emphasize the work that is done by hand and not with heavy machinery. Now, quality, how do you show quality? What does it come down to? We have precision and control in the work, and quality material. So really the wood that they take is Swiss local wood, and that is really high quality. So this is one of the things we want to push forward in here. And finally, sustainability, obviously, when it comes down to working with wood, it was about the forest. I mean, showing the woods, where the material comes from, and really emphasize the importance it has for the company. So these are the elements. We can see now more what we want to actually show. So what I put in red right here is the main elements we wanted to consider, because obviously sustainability is important, but the main thing first is we want to understand what the company does. Before we actually say that they do sustainability, we have to understand what their activity is. So the first things we wanted to consider, the main things we wanted to consider, is the work by hand, the precision and control in the work, and the quality material. So now at this point, what we realized by having this approach, so these are stock photos, this is not what we shot. But what I show here is that when we considered that approach, one of the things we thought is maybe we're going to have a certain part of the video, which is actually the work that is being done at the carpentry, and alternate with actual shots of the woods, of nature, to have that sustainability and nature component to the video. Now, the reason why I'm putting it this way is that first, we felt like it wasn't really original based on what they were asking at first, which was something visually pleasing and a little bit creative, a little bit surprising. Showing the work that is being done at the carpentry might be what you expect to see. So it wasn't really surprising. And the other thing is when we had, when we put the video kind of, the concept of the video together, we realized that most of the video would be focusing on the work, and then sustainability, just like I'm showing it here, would be kind of left on the side. So it would be kind of a third thing we are mentioning just to say like, okay, we still care about sustainability, and it wouldn't really be a part of the video. It would be kind of a side thing we mentioned to be well perceived. And this was really not what we were looking for, because it had to be part of the image of the company. So what we did, we thought a little bit, and we thought, instead of showing the work being done at the carpentry, what if we were to actually show the work being done in nature, in the woods, right where the material comes from? So, I mean, this was, we discussed at the beginning, and we thought like, it's not about reinventing the wheel. I mean, it's not like a big revolution, but this might be a little touch of creativity. Like, this might not be the first thing you expect from a video like this. And so therefore, there is a little component that can be intriguing. And the reason why I chose this visual is that, unlike the previous ones, you can see that now the activity we're showing is really part of nature, part of the woods. So the sustainability has been fusioned with the work of the company with such an approach. And this is something that we thought was much better in terms of idea. Now, at this point, we had just done some testing. I'm showing a final shot here, a screenshot, but at this point, this was really about getting the concept ready. Yeah. Now, when you get an idea like that, one of the very important things is you cannot say like, okay, we've got a great idea, let's do this. You always have to think of, okay, what does it mean practically? You know, practically, I mean, shooting inside at the carpentry was very easy, but suddenly when we're talking about shooting outside in the middle of nature with a big bench and all the carpentry equipment, because we also had some extra shots, some other shots, we had a whole lot of equipment. So you have to think of a location. This is a location that has to match the desired look. A location that is obviously accessible with all the equipment we had. The bench was weighing, I think, a little bit more than 100 kilos. So it's not practical to carry around, and it's a little bit heavy. So depending on where you are, it might not be the easiest thing to bring. And then you have to think of the equipment when you're at the carpentry. If you need a tool, if you need something, it's right there, it's right next to you. Now you really have to think of, okay, what do we need? What do we bring? You also have to foresee potential needs. So maybe if there's a change, if there's something that goes wrong, we have to have a backup plan. So you really have to consider those things. And then one of the extra thing was lighting, because if you're going into the woods, you don't necessarily have great light. You might end up being in a sort of dark, there's a lot of trees, not much light going through, and you end up being in the shadows. So what do? If you don't see much of what's being done, this is not great. So we were looking for natural light, and we also had to consider the same, coming back to what I said with foreseeing potential needs. We also had a generator, some extra lights in case we had to light differently if we didn't have, because we also depend on the weather. So you had to have a plan. You had to think like, okay, we want to go for as much natural light as possible, but in case we have to think that there might need some extra light. So for example, LED lights to really light the action. So now what I want to talk about, now that we see kind of how to plan it practically, one of the big things is, especially for such a short video, it can be very interesting to actually plan in advance all the things we really want to see. So for this video, actually all the main shots, so the longer shots that you see, were really planned in advance, like exactly how the hand had to move on the wood, how it had to be framed, the movement of the camera we wanted to have, all these things, especially for a 25-second video. This is something that is actually doable. It might not be as easy if you have a 3, 4, 5-minute video, but when you have shorter content, it can be very interesting to have as much planning being done in advance and come up with a plan that is as precise as possible. So what I want to talk, so I'm taking back this shot. This is kind of one of the ones I liked. This is also one of the, so there's a personal preference. But what I want to show you here is kind of how we came up with some of these shots, so that you can see it's not just we put the camera here, slide your hand on the wood, and then great, that's it. So what we wanted here with this shot was actually to show the quality of the wood. Now, this is, so you just see the initial shots. That's where the hand just slides on top of the wood. And actually, initially we thought like, okay, how do you show on camera that this is high quality material? Actually, we're not gonna take the wood, put a stamp on there that says high quality wood, and then there it is. They understand that we're working with great stuff. So how do you come up with an image that says that this is high quality material? And one of the things we thought about is, when you have something that is brand new, it's always comfortable to like just touch how smooth it is, how clean that is. And we just thought of this idea of like touching this smooth surface to kind of feel how good it is. And that's when we thought like, okay, just the touch, the smooth touch of the wood might make it feel like this is something, this is not just a rough piece of wood we came up with. This is quality wood. This is wood that you have to treat kind of gently. And so we had this idea of like, yeah, that can be a great way to illustrate the fact that this is high quality. Now, as I said, the first thing was we had the wood. We wanted to show that it was about the quality of the wood. So that's the first element that came up to our mind. Now, once again, the second element we came up with was really the touch, because this is a way you can relate to by having this smooth shot of the hand sliding, gliding on top of the wood. It makes you feel like it's smooth, especially with the slow motion, as I'm going to mention later with the pace aspect. This really emphasizes the smoothness of the wood. And then finally, this was basically like the shot finally came up with the background in the final video. So now I added just this shot so that you can see, this is actually what was being done when testing. So you can see the difference you have when you actually decide, when you actually carefully frame and design your shots. The feeling, the elements that are in the frame might be pretty much the same. The feeling is totally different when you see those two shots. This one was obviously when testing. You can see the hand is loose. You don't feel like it's particularly smooth. The framing is not particularly good. I mean, obviously this was testing. You even see part of the light we used as a supplement to actually really give extra shine to the hand. And so this really emphasizes the difference you can make by really carefully planning your shots and deciding on what it is that you want to show and how you want to show it. Now I'm going to speed a little bit about visual identity. Now we see kind of how we can put together ideas, come up with shots that express those ideas, but there are elements that can actually really supplement that. Now, one big question is, how can I create visual content that represents my brand? Once again, so 4 elements that I mentioned before at the beginning. The first one is color. I mean, colors can express a lot of things. So for example, if you have a brand that is really about fun, fun stuff that is really about enjoyment, this might be interesting to have colors that are really vibrant, that are flashy. As you can see with those colors, it really feels like something that is meant to be fun. This doesn't feel like something too sad in particular. Maybe you want to have something that feels more luxurious. Different color palettes that are more warm, more smooth, and more coherent might be interesting to consider. Maybe you want to have a vintage look, so you're going to go with softer colors, lower contrast. So this is a way to give an identity. Now, colors are not just a way to say, is it about luxury, fun, vintage? It can also give a mood. So for example, cold colors such as blue, violet can be more a way to express darkness, cold, sadness. I mean, this is not always the case, but it can be a way to express those things, whereas warm colors are much more friendly, welcoming, and positive. It can also be a way, colors can also be a way to, like I said, with the video of the carpentry, it can be a way to say, to create a universe. So say what the brand is about. Now, I'm just going to jump all the way to the end. Nope. I'm doing stuff that, and this is not. All right. So colors. So as you can see, this is the color palette pretty much we find in that video. And as you can see, this really gives a sense of what the brand is about. You have greens, which is really about nature, where I was mentioning sustainability. So this is really a great way to emphasize that. We've got the color of the skin and the brown that are really close to wood. Either, so yeah, I mean, you can see. And then the black, I mean, actually, we didn't have too much shadows, as I'm going to mention in the part about the lighting. We actually wanted to go with something really bright and that gives a positive image. But as you can see, colors can be a great way to, in a subtle way, to actually communicate what the brand is about. And you're going to see that also in the second example I have at the end. Now, coming back, and it's not working. Okay, so right there. So now application of colors, you can have that through costumes, so the clothes of the people that are on camera. Props, so props are basically decorations, objects that can be used when shooting. All the elements, the objects and decorations, yeah, all the little elements that people are using and the location, so as the background. As you can see in what I just showed you, the background is the woods. So we have the green, we have the brown, which really contributes to creating that universe. We have lighting. Now, lighting is a little bit of a more specific thing, but you can have, for example, blue light, red light. This is a way to give an ambience. I would say this is more specific. And then we have color grading. So color grading is the part where you actually decide in post-production if you want your shadows to be more blue, your highlights to be more yellow. And this is a great way to actually, this is much more subtle than the first with the costumes, the props, and location, because it is really about adding a little touch of blue in the shadows. I mean, a little touch. It can be more pronounced sometimes, but it is more of a subtle way to reinforce either the theme or the emotion that people should feel about the subject. And finally, the text. So for example, if you're including some screens such as what I have here. So maybe sometimes in your video, you just have a screen with colors and text. This is also a way to use color to communicate something about the brand. So these are the main elements I would consider here. Now, the second one is lighting. I'm going to speed a little bit because I see we're running late. So lighting, I'm going to take two main extremes, which are bright and dark. Now, bright is, as I said, more warm, more welcoming. It can also sometimes, as I'm going to show in the final example, be kind of a magic. It can create really a magic universe. You can create sort of a glowy look to the video, and then you have dark, which overall is more dramatic, intense, and threatening, as you can see on the image. However, there is a special case. Sometimes it can also be a way, for example, with product videography or with artistic videos. Sometimes you can have, for example, a product with just a black background and only the product is being lit. This is not necessarily particularly dramatic, intense, or threatening. It can also be a way to isolate the subject and really make it stand out even more. Now, pace, it's pace or speed of the action. Now, I'm taking back the example of the hand sliding on top of the wood because this is really, I think there is something interesting here. Now, pace, either it can be slow or fast. Slow is a better way to overall show elegance, beauty, and delicateness. There are other aspects that it can show. But when I take the example of the hand, you can see that the fact of having the hand sliding smoothly on top of the wood really emphasizes the smoothness and the quality of the wood. Had we had the hand just like go just very quickly on top of the wood, it would have felt more like something that is sharp rather than smooth. So pace can really shape how we perceive something. The speed of the action can really differentiate how we perceive it. Fast is more about roughness, aggression, dynamism. So for example, this is something we will find with sports car. This is a great way to emphasize something that is dynamic and that is powerful. Now I'm just gonna add something which is not here, which is actually that speed or pace has to be balanced. You have the pace, the speed of the shots, and then you have the speed or the dynamic of the overall video. You can have, for example, a video with a lot of slow motion, but that still feels quite dynamic. Now, this can be done in many different ways. For example, what we did in the video of the carpentry I showed you, what we did is we had a lot of slow motion, but we wanted to avoid to have it feel too slow. So what we did is at the beginning and more towards the end, we actually put sequences that are much faster, where it cuts much faster, so that it could break the pattern and keep the audience engaged. It changes the rhythm and you go back, changes the rhythm and then go back. And this can be a great way to avoid having something that feels slow all the way from beginning to end. Another way, which I will show you at the end, is to have something where you switch shots quite frequently, so that even though the action is happening slow, we constantly keep moving, which gives an overall dynamism. Okay, and finally sound. So for example, I don't know if it works now. Yeah, something like this. It feels very like, coming back, it feels very elegant when you have something such as orchestra or instrumental. This is a great way to make something feel elegant, sophisticated. On the other hand, nope. When you have something that is fun, it might be more interesting to consider pop music, electronic music. So for example, something like this. On the other hand, when we want to go for something that is more dramatic, like I said, hip hop, orchestra can be great ways to have something that is dynamic and dramatic. So when you have something like that, with strong contrast in the music. It really feels dramatic. Or energetic, electronic, hip hop music. So these can be great ways to actually really shape give an extra touch to how people should perceive your brand. Now, sound can also give a notion of time. So maybe if you have something that is more vintage, for example, clothing and it's vintage clothing, or maybe vintage vehicles, something that is more old school, it might be better to consider something a little bit more like this, which we have on the left. Or actually, can I actually do that? No. Well, it doesn't work very well. But if you want to have something that feels more modern, for example, if you have technological products, it can be better to use things such as electronic music, things that feel maybe even a little bit sci-fi, and it really goes well hand in hand with technological elements, things that are more modern. Now, application. So I presented you this before. The key elements, considering the colors, the lighting, and the pace, and the sound. Here we had a natural color palette to really emphasize the sustainability aspect and of the company. We had a bright lighting to give an image that was welcoming, positive, and warmer. And then we have slow motion, like I said, with the pace, because we wanted to show the smoothness of things, the control in the work, the precision. So slow motion was really a great way to emphasize that. And a bright sound, so something that feels positive, something that feels, and we wanted to have something orchestral, so that it feels more natural. It went well hand in hand with the concept. Now, just maybe Douglas, are you still there? Do I have still 2 minutes? I think I lost. Okay, so I'm just gonna quickly go over this.
You still have a lot of you just have some times, and people are maybe looking for practical tips about the production, the software that you might be using for a promotional video.
Okay. So yeah, so practical tips. Okay, so Douglas, can you just speak again? So there would be, for example, software.
So people are looking really for practical tips about this promotional video. Typically, what kind of software they should be using for that kind of production, and how to really create this quite easily. You spoke a lot about pre-production, but maybe try to cover a bit more the production itself.
Okay. Okay, so when it comes first to software, so for the software, there are a few main softwares that can be used. I personally use Sony Vegas, so which is from Sony. I think it is only working for PC. Now, the great thing with Sony is it's very accessible, because you have different different versions that are either more beginner, intermediate, or you have the professional version. Now, Sony can be a great alternative. I'd say it's really accessible. It's, especially if you start with this and then you take the more advanced version, this can be a great way because you stay in the same environment. Now, another software that is great is obviously Adobe Premiere, which is one of the most famous. I personally don't use that, but I know a lot of people who do. Adobe Premiere, I think, is different. It might be more expensive over time. However, it is more complete. So if you start with this, you might have a lot more tools or over time, especially because it works also hand in hand, I think, with Adobe After Effects, which is a great way to include for effects, graphic elements, so animations. So you can really couple these two. I think they work really well hand in hand. And this
Do you mind maybe just spelling this software so people
yeah,
could actually
so
type it?
Adobe Premiere, so Adobe, so Adobe, so that's Adobe Classical. And Premiere, it's really Premiere, Miere, so Premiere. And Adobe Premiere is really a great software. If I'm not mistaken, it works both on PC and Mac, so really a great thing all around. Now, these are the two main ones I would consider. There are still some other ones. You have Final Cut Pro, Final Cut Pro, so Final Final, and Cut just like cutting. Pro, which is for exclusively for Mac this time. I have the one that is for PC. This one is only for Mac. I think it is really good because from what I've heard, it's quite accessible at the beginning and you can really go quite far with it also. So in terms of software, that's something I would consider. Now, one tip I have is when you start with a software, stay with the same all the way through because different softwares have different ways of functioning. The different functions of the software are not the same when you go from one to another. So it's a different workflow from a software to another. When you get used to one, you have to relearn everything if you switch to another one. This is part of why I stuck with Sony all the way through. I started with them. I actually got used to the workflow that I had with a Sony software. And this is why I kept going with them. If you go from Sony to Premiere, you have to relearn a lot of things. If you go from Final Cut to Premiere, maybe also, I don't know exactly this one, but I would really consider looking well at the beginning so that you make the right choice and you can actually keep going with the same software or the same brand because you stay in the same environment.
So maybe just an additional question. It's about copyright-free music. So which website or software would you recommend to download copyright-free music?
Yeah, so there are a few big ones. So we have Epidemic Sound. So epidemic, like an epidemic, it's quite actually it's quite it goes well with the current situation. So Epidemic, so Epidemic and Sound. This is one where you actually the principle, all the main websites are, for example, you pay one fee for the entire year, and you can, I think, on all these websites download as many music as you want, and use it either for personal, commercial, I mean, any type of project really without having to worry about any copyright. The one I use personally, which is just a similar one, is called Artlist, so A-R-T, art, and in the same word list, so L-I-S-T. I don't know, I think they're about the same price. And honestly, Artlist, it's used by a lot of professionals. I mean, I've already heard music from that website in big TV commercials. I know a lot of, for example, also big YouTubers who use it. This is really a website that has grown a lot and that offers a lot of possibilities. So this is the one I use. I'm really happy with it. It's been, I think, like 3 years since I've started using it, and I kept going. You have all the types of sound. It is well classified. So really, I think a great site to use.
A couple of more questions,
Yeah.
Barry. So with only highly competitive product, is it also a goal to help with the videos to help for visibility? Is that something you recommend?
Can you just repeat? I'm not sure.
With only highly competitive product, is it a good thing to use videos to gain visibility? In your opinion?
I understand. Well, I think video might not be the only medium in such a case, but I actually think it can be a great way because, like I said, with such products, it allows to tell a message that is more subjective that you might not necessarily be able to communicate or communicate efficiently in many other ways. Now, once again, I honestly think it's a great medium, but it is not the only one.
Okay. What about the palette? So how do you read it? And related to this, is there any website we can use, that explains the colors and the palette of colors?
So now, I would say there's not a website in particular. However, I mean, what I would recommend at first, maybe when choosing colors, is because I mean the color palette is maybe more of a something that you might not think of first. So first, kind of a more intuitive way of thinking I would consider first is to more look. Obviously, this is something we might use more when we're actually really planning. We can stage a video. This is something we might not choose when filming an event because we have no control over what is being filmed. We just happen to shoot it. But when we have control, I would say this is more about already having an idea of what colors make sense or having colors that are cohesive. You might not necessarily need at first to have a really precise color palette, but already coming up with colors that make sense and that are cohesive might be a great way.
Any apps that you would recommend as well for video production besides software, only apps?
Yeah. I don't know that many apps for filmmaking. I know one, I mean, this is not particularly for filmmaking, but I don't know the name exactly, but when shooting outside, it has already helped me quite a lot. It's something that I know some other people use to know where the sunlight is and how it might be better to shoot. There is actually, I think there are multiple apps for to scout the light. And this is a tool that I know quite a few people who are in the filmmaking world use. Now, really an app about filmmaking, I don't really know any.
Okay. Then next question, what is the impact and the difference between animated videos and real videos in terms of real filming people, product, and etc.?
So you mean like 3D animation versus actual filming in reality?
Correct.
Yeah, all right, I see. Well, I think when it comes to animation is something that is a lot used. It can be paired with product videography. Sometimes some of the more complex shots where we really see an object in 3D and we feel like the camera is spinning around and going underneath. A lot of it can sometimes be done when it's really complex with animations. Now, when is it better to use animation? When is it better to use filmmaking? I think as much as possible, it is actually better to film it in reality because it has some components that really feel like it's actually real. The 3D animation, especially when it comes to lighting, the way the light interacts with an object, the way it moves, sometimes it can feel fake. And when it feels fake, it can actually create a sort of disconnection between the audience and the video itself. So I would say as much as possible, if it's possible, I would recommend to actually shoot it really and consider 3D animation really for maybe things that cannot be shot in reality or that are just too complex with the means at hand. So yeah.
Okay, let's just last three questions.
Yeah.
And then we will conclude. There's someone doing webinars and they want to use the Doga cat or prints. And can she or he use without paying for it And if they have to pay for it, to which company?
Can you just repeat? I'm not sure I understood.
Doga Cat Prints. I'm not well aware about this thing.
I'm not sure what it is.
So how would you make sure that if you need to pay anything related to a video, how would you make sure?
I'm not sure I understand the question actually.
So maybe it's Dorota asking the question if she can be a bit more precise. She is asking if she can use Madonna within her video
As a music.
without paying.
As a music.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, actually, with music, it all depends on the purpose of the video. If it's a solely personal video that only that person or her friends or his friends are gonna see, there is no need to have copyright to pay anything. Now, as soon as you are, as soon as it is used either for commercial use or even to just publish on the internet, which is something public where you kind of present yourself as having that music, you might need to consider copyright. Now, as long as it's, I would say this, as long as it stays in the private domain, this is fine without paying anything. But as soon as it gets public or commercial, I think you need to pay.
Thank you. What would be the best lengths for a promotional video? Well, depending of the format, of course, but let's choose, for example, a social media promotional video or a YouTube video.
Well,
what would you recommend?
Yeah, so there are different platforms and different formats. When it comes to Instagram, for example, social media such as Facebook, Instagram, I would recommend shorter content. For example, more even 15 to 30 seconds if it's an ad on social media. Because I mean, I personally, for the little amount of time I spend on social media, when I see an ad, I quickly keep going. I mean, I don't really look at it that much. So you really need to grab the attention very fast and have something that says a lot in a short amount of time. So for social media, I would go for Instagram and Facebook. I would go for something that is maybe 15 seconds up to 30 seconds. If it's an ad, now if it's a post, you can go for like a minute or so, but if it's an ad, I would stick with a shorter format. However, YouTube can be a great way to actually, for example, have maybe a longer version of the same video. So maybe you do a 15-second version, which is for Instagram and Facebook, where you really give all the main content to people very fast so that they can understand what it is about. They get all the main elements. And then, for example, have a 1:30 video that is the same subject where you actually develop more that you will post, for example, on YouTube. So you get the attention, and if they want to learn more, they can go to YouTube where they can get more content about the subject.
Okay, last question, and then we will conclude. Okay, is there any good tutorials for video making, like how to spend? Someone who would like to spend time to practice and learn from software about video making. Anything you would recommend as well?
Yeah. So I learned everything. I'm self-taught from, I learned from the internet. So obviously, yeah, I mean, there are some great ones. One that I actually still, I see sometimes, which is great. I mean, it's in English, obviously. It's called Full-Time Filmmaker. This is a big channel. So Full-Time, F-U-L time, T-I-M-E. So Full-Time. And then Filmmaker. So film, F-I-L-M, and maker, M-A-K-E-R. This is quite a big channel now, and they really cover a lot. So for example, they might have tutorials for fitness, sports video. They might have tutorials for interviews. They might have tutorials for wedding videos. They might have tutorials, I think, for events. Really all types of, and then also maybe comparisons for different cameras. how to record sound. So I think this is a great all-around channel. Personally, if I would to recommend something where it is well presented and that you can learn a lot from, I think this is a great one. Now there are some other ones, but yeah, really from knowledge, I would already go with this one.
Great. So just someone is asking, is fulltimefilmmaker.com. That's correct?
Yeah, that's the website, I think, but actually it is also on YouTube. So you can type full-time filmmaker on YouTube. And I think actually the channel, the name of the channel might be Parker Walbeck, in case you see. So Parker, P-A-R-K-E-R, and Walbeck, W-A-L-B-E-C-K. I think actually this is the guy who created the course, that type of course. And I think the channel has his name, but the website seems to be the right one, but there's also a channel on YouTube that's free content, basically.
All right. Well, thank you, Barry, for a lot of advice and recommendation about creating a video.
I hope, obviously, like, once again, there is a lot that can be said. I mean, even if some people want to have questions, I'm free. I mean, they can obviously write me an email or anything. I'm always happy to answer such topic, but it was I'm sorry if some people might have expected some other things. Obviously, like I said, there is a lot to cover. I hope you're not frustrated. At least for me, it was a great pleasure to talk about it. And so, yeah.
Thank you so much, Barry. So we'll just conclude now. Well, thanks, of course, to our partners that makes this kind of event possible. Just the next events in StartImpulse. It's going to be L'Art Oratoire pour Vendre en 2020. That's going to be in French. Also online with Mathieu Vildebert, which is an expert in public speaking. And he will speak how to use public speaking techniques to better sell. And otherwise, please fulfill the feedbacks in order to give your impressions about today's StartImpulse. And you can either scan the QR code or click on the link that will be also written in the chat. So if you want to ask any questions still to Barry, we are still available for a couple of 10 minutes. And otherwise, I wish you a beautiful evening to everyone. Okay, and stay safe and stay healthy. Thank you. So any question? I'm looking at chat. If you have any questions, please do.
Yeah, you're right.
You can also take a look, Barry, if you want.
Like nothing.
There's Dorota asking to repeat the best timing for promotional video in which we can put it on a website. What do you recommend?
Can you just repeat?
So what is the best timing for a promotional video that we want to integrate on a website?
So the best timing, you mean the best length?
Yes, best length.
Okay. So for a website?
Yes.
Well, actually for a website, I think it can actually be interesting to have, I would say, longer content. Maybe not as an opening. Maybe if it's a front page, it might be interesting to have shorter content, because that's not necessarily where people are going to spend most time. So have something quick where they can get some of the main elements very fast, once again, like social media. However, if it's on a particular page, if it's a video presenting a product, a concept, and it is really a more detailed video, I think you can go for something that is much longer. So maybe 2-3 minutes, you can really, I mean, even an explanation video can work. So that's a place where you can really go for longer content. However, once again, if it's for an opening, I would go with something shorter and much more compact.
Additional question from Lan.
Yeah.
Any suggestions when our product is not the product per se, but rather a desired impact, typically improved healthcare, eradicate poverty, these kind of things. So
Yeah.
how would you showcase these kind of subject and topics?
Yeah. So I would say here, the idea, obviously, making a video with something that is abstract, the idea is to actually, I would say it all comes down, if it's not something that is physically presentable, I would say the best way is to create sort of a story, maybe a concept, a way to actually metaphorically show it, or create a story that tells about it. So that's really what I would say. So for example, if it's about fighting poverty, I mean, we could have, for example, fighting poverty. I don't know. We could have, for example, a person. We could have, for example, sort of a fictive city where poverty is really predominant. And we could have, for example, a person walking across the street, sort of like being this power, that concept of fighting poverty that walks through the city and kind of rises those people from poverty. I think it's really about finding a way to metaphorically materialize it.
Great, thank you. I don't think there's any more questions. If it's not the case, then we will finish the presentation. Thank you, Dorota. Thank you for everyone for paying attention until the end. That's very much appreciated. And yes, so have a good evening. I wish you a beautiful evening and see you soon.
Thanks.
Someone is saying you're awesome, Barry. Here we go.
I actually wrote that in the chat.
Oh, you did. Here we go.
Was the only way.
All right, great. Have a good one, everyone. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.